They tell me we're recording now. And so, Chairman Perez, thank you very much for making time.
Good to be back with you.
Let's get to the jobs report that came out today. The unemployment numbers are out, and even economists are surprised by the rebound, saying they're much better than anyone really expected. You were a former labor secretary under President Obama. Is this a good sign that the economy is beginning to recover from the coronavirus shutdown?
I always want more people to be back at work as soon as possible. That should always be our goal. I always told my team when I was the labor secretary, when I have 1 month's numbers, I want the previous 2 months because I want to understand what the trend data looks like. And when you look at the last 3 months here, we've now seen 19.6 million jobs lost. And to give your viewers perspective on that, the worst 3-month stretch of the Obama administration was in 2009, and the total job loss was 2.3 million jobs. So 2.3 versus 19.6 million jobs lost. So, you know, we've gone from a Category 5 hurricane to a Category 4.9 hurricane. We were 42 points behind in the football game. Now we're about 35 points behind. African American unemployment ticked up last month, and it's double what it was at the end of the Obama-Biden administration. Latino unemployment is triple what it was at the end of the Obama-Biden administration. And what frustrates me about all the jobs cratering is that so much of it was preventable. If this president had paid attention in December of last year, January and February, if he had listened to his experts, we could have mitigated so much of the job loss by taking the pandemic seriously. Other countries that are similar to the United States and Europe that did that, and there was a couple studies this week about that, other countries that had done that, they have been able to mitigate the job loss. Their per capita job loss is far less than ours. So it's absolutely mind-boggling to see the president spike the football and call this joyous when we have tens of millions of people who are out of work across this country, and also people who've lost their health care, because most people, when you lose your job, you also lose your health care because it's tied to your employment. We've got so much more work to do.
Well, let me also then ask you about something else that's going on in the country right now that I know you're very much aware of, and that is the George Floyd protests. We have seen mostly peaceful protests, but also violence and looting in Milwaukee and across the country. You were once a civil rights attorney for the U.S. Department of Justice. Where are we right now in this country on the conversation around the use of police force? Is this the eye of the storm?
You know, civil rights has always been the unfinished business of America, and the senseless murder of George Floyd has laid bare what I saw in my work. You're correct. I spent over a decade at the Justice Department under Republican and Democratic administrations prosecuting police misconduct and overseeing the prosecution of police misconduct cases. And I did it because I firmly believe that the most critical tool that a police officer has at his or her disposal is the trust of the community. When you don't have the trust of the community, you don't have anything. And that's what we see in Minneapolis. That's what we see in the aftermath of other incidents of police abuse. And what we have to do moving forward is, number one, understand that this isn't a problem simply for African American America. This is a problem for America. We are all in this together. We must all succeed in this together. This is a moment where we need leadership that understands that words matter. When you use words like, we will bring out dogs, and if there's words like looting and shooting, those were words used by George Wallace. Those are words used by Bull Connor to oppress African Americans. Jim Mattis, the retired general, revered general, who served this nation with distinction, said, I think yesterday, I've never seen a president who's not interested in uniting our country. This president is more concerned about picking fights with Twitter than about addressing the critical issues of our moment. And it is so, it's on the one hand so disheartening because we still need leadership right now. We need the consoler in chief, not the divider in chief. But I'm heartened by the remarkable folks out there in the street. I marched in DC yesterday, and I was probably 30 years older than the average marcher yesterday. And I was honored to be there, and I was inspired by their word. And I take great hope from their movement and the message, and we must all listen. And we must all translate this moment into participation in November.
So you say participation, even the mayor of Milwaukee is going to create a commission to look at police force. I think President Obama also on that. Where is that conversation? Because you've been part of that conversation. How does it change this time?
Well, I'm always looking for kernels of hope. And having been involved in these cases, you can change the culture of police departments. And what will happen, what needs to happen in Minneapolis, to give you an example, number one, the justice demands that there be an appropriate prosecution of the perpetrators involved. Having said that, the criminal case is a necessary but insufficient condition of transformation. In addition, we need to use another tool. When I was in the federal government, a guy named Joe Biden, when he was the vice president of the United States, got a law passed that gave the Justice Department the ability to investigate what we call patterns and practices of police misconduct. Patterns and practices. We used this authority to transform the Los Angeles Police Department, the Seattle Police Department, New Orleans, so many other cities, because it gives you the opportunity to go root and branch, to figure out the culture issues, training, all of these things. What's the use of force policies? What's the role of the community? In all of these investigations, we gave the community a seat at the table. We were part of the bridge building, trust building exercise. These are the things we need to do. The problem we have right now with that authority is that this administration, the Trump Barr administration, not only isn't using that authority, it's affirmatively hostile. Because their approach, their law and order approach, is you're either on the side of the police or you're on the side of the community. That is a false choice. We can have effective and constitutional policing by working together. That's what we need to do across this country. It can be done. It's not easy, but I've seen it done. I've seen meaningful improvement. We can do this.
One other question on this topic then. Do you believe the party believes that this conversation needs to shift to defunding police departments?
Listen, we need to make sure that police officers can do their job and can build relationships of trust with communities. Vice President Biden worked very hard, not only in establishing the authority that I just described, but he worked very hard to establish in the Justice Department a COPS office, and COPS stands for Community-Oriented Policing. When communities and police come together, when the police department reflects the diversity of the community that it serves, when the community has a seat at the table, then policing can be so much more effective. We can reduce crime, we can restore public confidence, we can create communities that thrive. That's what Joe Biden understands. He understands that it's not us against them. I mean, in Arizona, one of the cases we did was against a guy named Joe Arpaio. Joe Arpaio abused the community repeatedly. The Obama-Biden administration, and I had the privilege of leading that case, prosecuted Joe Arpaio. Donald Trump pardoned Joe Arpaio. And you know what voters did? They threw him out of office because they knew he didn't reflect their values. And they threw him out of office overwhelmingly. We've got to move away from this us against them mentality to we're all in this together. And Donald Trump is adding gasoline to the fire when he keeps making references to looting and shooting and all of those dog whistles for abusive police practices. He does no service to good police officers when he is inciting further division.
Let me ask you another topic very important to Milwaukee. You know, a lot has changed since you picked Milwaukee to host the Democratic National Convention. This week, the world's largest music festival, known as Summerfest in Milwaukee, canceled for September. We've seen the state fair, the Wisconsin State Fair, canceled. We are 10 weeks away from your convention here. Can you say with certainty it will be an in-person convention the week of August 17th?
Well, I'm looking forward to being in Milwaukee the week of the 17th. And I'm looking forward to having a safe, exciting, Wisconsin-y convention. Now, the precise contours of the convention remain to be seen. We postponed it 5-6 weeks because we wanted to buy time. And we think that buying time can enable us to address many of the concerns. But unlike President Trump, who's abandoning, apparently, North Carolina because he wants to throw caution to the wind. He doesn't want to heed any of the advice of public health professionals. We believe that job one is putting on a safe convention. So we will continue to listen to Mayor Barrett and his team. We will continue to listen to the county executive and his team and the governor and his team. We will continue day in and day out to consult with public health professionals. People tend to speak as if you either have you have a binary choice. You either don't do a convention or you do a full convention. We have given flexibility to our team to figure out what is the best interest of the public health imperative of the moment. And it may be that it's something in between those two polar opposites. But I'm looking forward to spending time in Milwaukee, anchoring our efforts to make sure that we take back our democracy and make history, not only with the nomination of Joe Biden, but with the nomination of what will be our first female vice president ever. And I can think of no better place to mark that than the state of Wisconsin, which embodies the resilience and diversity and commitment to opportunity that is our country.
Just a quick follow-up, because I know your time is short here. The city is starting to reopen. I mean, is there a sense we'll know by mid-June, July 1st? People need to plan. People want to know what the convention is going to look like.
Sure. No, I mean, we want to make a decision as soon as possible, but I'm always reluctant to lay down markers that I can't lead. I want to continue to consult with the public health professionals, and we're doing that on when I say a regular basis, I'm talking about a daily basis. And so we understand that we need to give people as much notice as possible. We need to give our production team the direction they need. So it's in everyone's best interest for us to try to reach a decision as soon as possible. At the same time, we want to get it right. We want to get it safe. We want to get it exciting. And so we're trying to do all of those at the same time.
All right, Chairman Perez, thank you very much for your time. I'm going to hit the
My pleasure.
recording button here.